Yeah, I hung the picture I wanted to be in the background
Beyond
of the podcast.
Eats. That is that the Alton Brown thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's autographed too, and I wanted it there, but I put it in the exact wrong position.
Oh yeah, because you went and saw him, right?
Yeah, in theory, it's his last tour, so we'll see.
Did you get it autographed, or did you just buy it autographed?
Just bought it autographed.
Oh, you were too scared.
Oh no, I mean, it's not like we could meet him. They just were selling them, and I was like, hell yeah.
I always think back to when we went to that comic convention and we met the Hulk. What was his name?
Oh my god,
Lou Ferrigno, and you got all weird about it and like walked away without saying a word to him.
His handshake was so fucking weird. It was just so limp and clammy, and I was like, okay, this is uncomfortable.
Yeah, the same thing happened when I met Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees. I was so excited to meet him, and I shook his hand, and it was the most like limp, wet hand you've ever touched in your life. Ruined it.
I think if you see a famous person, you should just wave from a distance. Keep all of your happy fantasies intact.
Yeah, that's true. Don't ever meet them.
Yeah, don't ever meet
speaking of Mickey Dolenz, he is the guy that runs the gun store in Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Really?
Do you know that scene?
Only a little.
I think
Did you watch the Rob Zombies?
Years ago. But where I think it's where Loomis goes to buy a gun or something, and he goes to a gun store, and there's some dude behind the counter. That's Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees. As bizarre as that is, I guess Rob Zombie was a fan.
Welcome, everybody, to this exciting episode of Aaron and Justin Talk Sequels. We are still knee-deep in the middle of the Halloween series. There's light at the end of the tunnel, but right now we are now on to our fourth episode.
We are knee-deep in sewage.
Yes.
Maybe we'll dig ourselves out a little bit for these last two installments.
Let's do a quick recap so that everybody is kind of on the same page.
Right.
So we've talked about Halloween 1 and 2, which is a nice, tight story of Michael attacking this woman who turns out to be his sister. And then kind of part 2 is that same night, he goes to the hospital to continue to try and kill her. That movie ends with Michael and his doctor exploding at the hospital and Michael being dead. And so they pivot the series to an anthology idea, and they come out with Halloween 3, which is about witches, but not really. It's more about a crazy toy company trying to bring Halloween back to its original pagan roots.
Yeah, never do we see a witch, but it's called Season of the Witch, and he's doing it all for the benefit of witches, I guess.
Something.
Anyway, there was no sequel to that, so who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't really work. So they take a 360. They decide Michael Myers is the way to go.
I would say a 180, because 360 just takes you back to what you were doing. Right?
Yes, they do a 180.
There you go.
They bring back Michael Myers. They retcon his death and just say he was badly burned and in a coma for 10 years.
Nobody died. Everybody just got a little bit scorched, and that was it.
So with Halloween 4, Michael comes to kill his niece, who he has a weird connection with. And they do a nice setup where the niece was going to take over as being the killer because she gets on the Halloween or the clown costume that he wore as a kid. And she appears to kill her stepmom. And then Halloween 5 comes along and they decide that's not a good idea. Mm-hmm. They keep Michael Myers in the picture. He once again attacks her, basically. That movie sucked. That's my least favorite.
Yeah, I'd say that was the time where the filmmakers or the producers wimped out on what they could have done with 4. Drop the whole thing and just put together another 5 thinking, let's kind of restart it again. Maybe this will work.
It didn't. And we keep getting longer periods of time in between these sequels as they know they have a property, but they don't really know what to do with it. And we left off last week with Halloween 6. Let's see if I can do this in one sentence. Where Michael Myers has a baby with his niece and is under the control of a cult, and the cult wants to sacrifice the baby to transfer the evil that's in Michael to an unrelated other little boy for some reason.
Who's a Strode. He's related to Laurie, which actually makes him a cousin of Michael.
Which is just bonkers. And the best part of that movie is Paul Rudd stealing a baby and deciding that it's going to be his now.
Right. And how horrible he is at acting in that movie.
And his terrible acting.
Yeah. Like we were talking about, like he finally, like imagine a world where Paul Rudd didn't realize what his strength was. this
that's
was
exactly
what he
what
would
we
be.
talked about.
He would be a Halloween 6 Paul Rudd for the rest of his career. That probably wouldn't have lasted that long. So luckily he found what he did best. But it was like, hey, it's the 90s. It's music video time. We'll grab some European film director. We'll bring him over here. He'll make a real stylized version of Halloween. It's 1995. We'll throw some grunge music in there. We'll throw some shock jock radio guy in there. It'll work, right? And it didn't. I mean, points for trying, I guess.
I like that movie just because it's so damn weird. The social media guy, if you saw, put out a pretty good graphic. This series is one of just a handful of series that have a new entry in every single decade over the last 50 years. It's been kind of fun to watch it progress as the popular trends have changed. You kind of see with 5 and 6 where the genre had almost stalled out. It was the same kind of thing. They were doing Halloween, they were doing Jason, they were doing Michael, Freddy, and it was just kind of the same old thing. So in 1997, we have a big cultural shift with Scream coming out. And Scream really changed the game with how we engaged with horror movies. It was okay to be funny and edgy, and
it kind of broke the fourth wall as well, where it almost made the viewer a part of the experience in the way that the characters in Scream are knowledgeable about horror movies. So
yes,
using their knowledge of watching the same movies we're speaking about without necessarily naming them, I think they probably did maybe name Freddy and Jason, maybe even Michael Myers, but they used that in order to navigate this new world of the Scream movies. Yeah, it was really interesting, and it was definitely something that nobody had really seen before, and I think it was also cool that Wes Craven was the architect behind bringing up a new version of the slasher movie.
Who is he? The master of horror? Who is the master of horror? I feel like somebody had that tag phrase. I feel like it was him.
When you think of horror movies, I would say it's Wes Craven, because he has the most successful, I guess, entries into the genre. Whereas Carpenter, yeah, he's cult and beloved, but a lot of his shit wasn't even successful.
Right. It's very, very true. So yeah, so the guys that make Halloween are like, oh, this Scream thing, we could make some money off this. Let's make Halloween like Scream. Have some youngsters in there. Have it edgy.
And a rapper. That's the
and a
thing.
rapper.
You gotta put a rapper in. At least turn of the century, early 2000s. Like, it was all about finding who's a rapper that wants to be an actor. Let's put him in.
And so, yes, we have one of the better rapper actors in this movie with LL Cool J. And we have Jamie Lee Curtis returning to the franchise for Halloween H20 20 years later. A just god-awful title.
Halloween 20 years later is what it means. So it's H20. But for some reason, it's just... I just think they couldn't help but call it H2O. Like, the one scientific thing that everybody knows next to E equals MC square is that water is H2O.
Yeah.
But, like, it has nothing to do with anything. H2O, I don't know. It worked. You know what it did? It made it recognizable, and it put it on people's brains. So as far as the marketing scam goes, or not scam, but marketing, idea goes, I guess that wasn't too bad.
So this movie, we're talking about the big swings that the previous movies took. I can't actually confirm from any official source, and it's probably out there, but this movie takes place directly after Halloween 2 and kind of skips 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
My question to you is, does it?
I believe it does. Only because... This reminds me of the new Ghostbusters. It's hard to take a beloved character like Laurie Strode and say to the audience, oh, by the way, she had a daughter she abandoned, and then just go on with the movie. It's just like it makes her into somebody nobody likes. And that's what it reminds me of Ghostbusters, is that what they did to Egon. And it just is constantly left a bad taste in my mouth, where I'm just like, couldn't they have made him like an uncle? I don't know. There could have been some way that he wouldn't have been a deadbeat dad. To answer your question, yeah, this is the first reboot. I don't know if that's the right thing, but a soft reboot of the Halloween franchise is Halloween H2O.
Reboot sequel is my favorite little line for these, but I'm going to deliver a counter argument. Why did Michael wait 20 years to go after her if it's a sequel to 2?
Right. Question
1. Number 2, why is she faking her own death?
Well, that makes sense to me, why she faked her own death.
But it just ties into 3 or 4, 5, and 6. Like, she's supposed to be dead. Like, they could have taken it somewhere completely different where everybody knows she's alive, but she's in like a protective custody kind of thing.
Okay, now I take that back, because watching the movie, I think I was under the impression that it took place after the first movie, because Loomis shoots Michael, he falls off the balcony, his body's on the ground, they all think it's over, but when he goes to look at Michael's dead body, it's gone. So that made me think that's why she faked her death, and that's why she changed her name, and that's why she moved across the country, because he was still out there, and she just knew it was a matter of time before he would come back. But it doesn't actually take place out of the first movie. It's supposed to be a continuation from the second, where she watched him burn. So there had to be some sort of explanation in there where the body was never recovered, or the body went missing, and that's why she was fearful that he would come back for her, and that's why she ended up changing her name, moving across the country.
She doesn't have a reason. Yeah,
they didn't name that.
They didn't do shit. And so what we get is a very self-contained little movie that it makes sense and it's fine.
Yeah, I called it fairly solid. I thought it was it was fun to watch. And it was, I liked how you put it, self-contained. That made me feel good about the whole thing. And they brought a lot of new stuff to it as far as the sixth sequel in a 7-movie franchise. They brought something new to it, putting her in a different location and having it be like a girls' or a private high school and stuff like that. But at the same time, it kind of fell apart a little bit for me at the end. But overall, it was pretty solid.
I'm just throwing it out there to finish the thought. This could be a sequel directly to 2. Doesn't make a lot of sense. This could be a sequel to all of them, and they decide just to not talk about them. I think the biggest reason they say it's a sequel to 2 is that she's not his sister in 1.
Right, but she definitely is in this movie, so it has to follow 2.
Yeah.
But also because the big thing is that when anybody talks about that thing that happened in the 70s, they don't mention how he was also killing 40 other people throughout the 80s and the 90s. Right. Which obviously would have been something they would have talked about it if he was that mass murderer. But he wasn't a mass murderer. He just happened to be some dude that killed about 4 people, and he might be coming back for Laurie.
And at this point, he's like, what, 40, Michael is? Like, it's all still pretty darn believable.
Yes, exactly. But it escapes me exactly where he was when this movie started and why 20 years later was the time when he came back for her.
Yeah, it wasn't covered at all.
Did he break out of
And
somewhere?
If it was covered, somebody let us know. But no, like the movie starts with him breaking into Loomis's nurse's house.
Yes,
and stealing Laurie's file because before she faked her death, she told Loomis where she was.
Spoiler alert, that actress who plays the nurse, who was in 1 and 2, and now comes back for H2O and gets killed in H2O, she also gets killed in Halloween Kills. So she's the one actress who played the same role but gets killed twice in 2 different kinds of movies, but both in the same franchise.
I still haven't watched Halloween.
I know,
Halloween
I just thought that
yet.
was pretty
and
arbitrary.
I'm excited.
Who cares? So
yeah.
I ruined that one for you, but whatever. It doesn't matter. That one doesn't matter. But I just thought that was funny. I was like, wow, she's died twice already. And by 2 different directors that are like, okay, you're the same character, but we're doing something different this time, but you got to die again.
It's rude. It's just rude. Okay, so let's run through this bad boy so we can get on to the big pile of shit that Resurrections is. So Laurie is a teacher. She's an adult. She has a kid with Josh Hartnett as playing her son.
And what the fuck is with his hair?
That hair was big.
It was bad. It's like he has cowlicks, right? Is that what they call it? All over his head. Because he took that hairstyle onto the faculty as well. So I think it's just his hair. And for some reason, the makeup people were like, oh, you look good.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in this, but this wasn't his first one?
No, I mean, I think he was already doing Third Rock from the Sun, so I think he was out there, but this may have been his first feature film.
But Halloween has such a great tradition of introducing us to great actors. Because wasn't Halloween Jamie Lee Curtis's first?
Yes.
And then we get Paul Rudd, we get Josh Hartnett. There's somebody else in there.
Michelle Williams is in this one.
Yeah, but I mean, she was, I think, still banking on Dawson's Creek at that point.
Oh, that's right. She was on Dawson's Creek. She looks too young to be Hartnett's girlfriend in this. She just looks like she's such a baby. She's got a baby face.
All right, back on track.
Yeah, back on track.
Her son goes to the private school. It's not girls only. His girlfriend goes there.
But it's a private high school in California that's behind gates. So that's all you need to know. But it's like it's a high school, but it's like they live there.
Well, she's the headmaster, so I could see her getting quarters.
But the kids live there, is what I mean.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those fancy ones.
Yeah.
With dorms.
I'm not too familiar with that high schools like
Neither.
that.
Neither am I. So Jamie is constantly plagued by memories of Michael, especially during Halloween.
Laurie, so we don't confuse.
Sorry, Laurie, constantly plagued by dreams of her brother even 20 years later. And it's something that's worse during Halloween, and everybody kind of knows it. Josh Hartnett wants to go on the big school field trip. Where was it?
Yosemite.
Oh, which
National
is weird
Park.
to be excited. Yeah. So we get to see just like the normal setup.
Well, he's lived with her paranoia for 20
Yes.
years, for his 17 years. And he's come to the point where he's old enough to be fed up with this shit.
Yes.
And wants her to get on with her life because it's affecting him. She won't let him do anything because she's afraid that he's just going to get murdered. Definitely paranoid, but of course you're in a Halloween movie, so your paranoia turns out to be well received because he is coming for you.
They do a fun little thing here with the story that I like. He's really pissed that he can't go on the field trip. So him and his friends make a plan to skip the field trip together and have a party at the school instead.
Yeah, because nobody will be there, and they'll have their own dorm area, so they shouldn't get discovered, I guess is the idea.
But then we get that classic parent guilt play where Laurie feels guilty, so she lets him go. She's trying to be a good mom, and now he's like, shit. I already made plans to hang out with the girlfriend. And so they don't go on the field trip.
And two other friends.
Hang back. And two other friends. But that felt so real to me as a parent.
It was pretty good. And it was a way to keep them there to be in danger without making it too coincidental. Or, I mean, they just made it coincidental instead of, like, over the top. And that she was able to see his sleeping bag and his stuff that he would have taken with him was still in his room. So that led her to know that he was still there. Yeah, it all worked.
And it's worth noting that Laurie is now dating a man played by Adam Arkin.
Who I did not look this up, but he's got to be Alan Arkin's brother, right?
Oh, I don't know.
He's got to be. But I call this guy bargain bin George Clooney.
He was everywhere for a while.
Yeah,
and then...
he's good. I mean, he's good, but he's no George Clooney. But that's who he wants to be. It's just a salt and pepper look, I guess.
Who is Alan Arkin? Why am I blanking on that?
Alan Arkin from Peavy from Rocketeer.
Oh, Alan Arkin is like the psychiatrist from Grosse Point Blank.
I don't remember that, but I know that he was Peavy in Rocketeer.
That is his dad.
Adam Arkin is the son of Alan Arkin?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Because in 98, Adam Arkin doesn't look that young. So that's crazy that I thought they were brothers. Weird.
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Pretty
Dynasty. Working it. Well, there are no bridges. Lloyd and Bo and Jeff. But hey,
It's true. Anyway, Michael, being our most famous slasher star to drive a vehicle, goes ahead and he takes a road trip across the country to go and get Laurie. There's a great scene at a rest area where a mom and a daughter pull in, and you clearly see the truck that Michael's been driving.
The car.
Yeah. No,
Yeah. I mean, so Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a neighbor boy of the nurse. I don't remember her name, but who was in the original 2 Halloweens.
I forgot. He was in there for 2 seconds.
Yes, exactly. And she is going home from her job. She's still a nurse. And someone breaks in. Explain to me how this... Is that her house? Or is it Dr. Loomis's house? No, it was her house. Her office, but she has Loomis's files because he had died.
Loomis was living there.
Okay.
She took care of him.
I see. So it was her house. He's dead. His office is still there. All of her stuff. It gets broken into. Michael apparently broke into there. Found out for some reason. This is also what bothered me. Why would Dr. Loomis have info on who Laurie is now? I don't know. Yeah. What does that have to do with anything? If she is in witness protection and changed her name, it's not like she's going to see him as a psychiatrist anymore or something like that. It's just bizarre to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's don't think about it too much.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they demand.
So that's where Michael finds out where Laurie is, and then he ends up killing the nurse, steals her vehicle, which is sort of like the station wagon he used to drive in the first one, I think.
Yes.
But he makes it as far as this rest area where this mom and this daughter that you're saying, stop, the girl's got to go pee. Why the fuck are they driving that old piece of shit truck from the 1930s?
That's why I was confused because, I didn't see them driving that. But yeah.
I just was like, it stood out. I just don't know what that stylistic choice was. I mean, it looked fine for him to be driving it, but why would the mom and the daughter be in that vehicle? I have no idea.
Right. It's a serial killer vehicle. Like it's, they didn't. It
was like Jeepers Creepers almost. Do you remember that movie?
Yes. That is exactly the thought I had. I love that movie.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I love that scene just because the mom knows how much trouble she's in, and she can see Michael through the cracks, because Michael comes and he swipes her purse, grabs the keys, and he lets them live.
Yeah, there's that sense of relief on the mom's face where it's just like, he took my purse, he took my vehicle, but he didn't kill us.
And so it's like a good day.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I like that.
And LL Cool J is the security guard at the prison, or at the, well, I mean, you could call a boarding school a prison, but
I guess
at the boarding school. Just like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he doesn't really have a huge role here. He spends most of his time talking with his girlfriend on the phone.
Yeah, he's like trying to write romance novels or something. He's just a bored security guard.
Can we jump to where Michael shows up?
Yeah, I mean...
Is there anything big that we're missing?
Well, you already mentioned how Hartnett is staying behind with Michelle Williams, his girlfriend, and his two other friends, and Lori and her new boyfriends, and she's paranoid, and she sees Michael all over the place, but only in her mind. And then, yeah, he just shows up. He finds out where she was because of the info we got from Loomis's office at the nurse's house. And, yeah, I mean, he pulls the vehicle up to the gate. LL Cool J doesn't seem to be the best trained security guard because he kind of is doing everything you probably shouldn't do, where he opens the gate up and then he walks out and is like, hey, no one's in this vehicle, what's going on? And that's where Michael slips inside.
See, it's getting a little jumbled at this point. When the murders start, it's hard to keep track of who gets killed when for me.
Well, it's really like, I think he goes after the kids first. They happen to be in the line of fire first, so he ends up killing the boy who was a friend in that group of four, and then he kills his girlfriend, and then he's basically, I think, trying to kill Michelle Williams, but then doesn't Hartnett kind of save her, and the two of them together kind of escape?
Yes.
And then Jamie Lee Curtis, Lori, is aware that Hartnett is there somewhere, but not before her and her new boyfriend, I think, are kind of running from Michael a little bit. And then they think Michael's coming up. And that's when Adam Arkin shoots who he believes is Michael, but it ends up to be LL Cool J. I mean, he got gunned down, right? He was dead.
I think so, yeah.
Exactly. And then while they're checking it out and realizing, oh, fuck, I shot the security guy, that's when Michael kills Adam Arkin. And then Jamie takes off, or Lori takes off running.
There's a scene that I love in there where Jamie sees Michael for the first time. Lori sees Michael in the distance coming at her. I think they do it 3 times where she closes her eyes and tries to shake it out of her head because she's so used to seeing him. And when he's still there, it's just a fun moment. And so, Lori kills Michael and the movie's over.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely make her less of a victim. Yeah, I'd say yet again, because Halloween was kind of about her fighting back to some degree. But she's even more adamant about killing Michael. Like, she doesn't want to be paranoid anymore. She doesn't want to live with this. So when she sees the opportunity, she knifes him, starts stabbing the hell out of him. He takes a tumble out of one of the buildings. I mean, that's pretty much it, right? Like, that's when the paramedics arrive.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't think we missed anything.
Right, and take him like he's dead. But then she
is like, no.
Yeah, fuck this. I gotta destroy the body or do something to make sure he's dead. So she steals the ambulance with his body in it. Goes on this crazy drive. Kind of fell apart for me at this point because she's doing things that you wouldn't do. Like, she basically waited until he woke up and was able to, like, steer the car off the road. And you know, they take a tumble. She gets thrown out, luckily. He gets pinned by the vehicle. And then it's her and him face to face where he can't do anything about it. He can't kill her. He can't escape. And what does she do?
She reaches out to him, which I thought was impactful again. Like, they don't have to throw those scenes in this movie, but they do, and it makes it better.
I don't know if it worked, but there is the reminder that this is her brother. And I guess that was worth reminding instead of just making him a faceless killer. To some degree, it humanizes him a little bit. Yeah, it didn't exactly work for me, but it was okay.
So she takes a sharp weapon and she clean cuts Michael Myers' head off. No question, we see it bounce. Michael Myers is dead. It's not a great ending, it's just good.
It's the only way to kill him. You gotta remove the head. He's kind of like a vampire. If you remove the head, how else is he gonna be alive?
If I had made this movie, I would have made like a cloud of demon smoke come out of his neck. Never explained it.
Goes up into the sky.
Never say a thing. It's just we see something weird come out of his body and movie over.
Just to mess with everybody, I would have had it go into Jamie Lee Curtis, and then when she's, the scene, the cops and the ambulances are cleaning everything up, she's like, well, no, thank you, I'm able to live a life. And then she goes in front of a mirror cleaning herself up, and she just has this like maniacal laugh like he's inside her now or something. That actually happened at the end of the Twin Peaks, but whatever. That's what I would do, just to mess with people.
That was good. I would have enjoyed that scene.
That's pretty much it, right? I just want to talk about like another important part of H2O is that I think it made some pretty good money, right? I mean, it was something worth promoting because Laurie Strode is back. And the other big thing is that John Carpenter was almost going to come back as well and direct this movie.
Oh, really?
Yes. But he wanted $10 million, which in 1998 or 7 or whatever, was unheard of for a director. And a lot of people think that he was never serious about directing because they knew they would never pay that amount. But over the years, with Halloween making money and the character he and Deborah Hill created, he claims that he got screwed out of royalties from 1978 on. He's been screwed out of royalties. So a lot of people believe that he just threw that number out because it was his way of getting what he thought he was owed for the first movie and its subsequent sequels using his characters. So no surprise they said no. But I guess other people think that he wanted to come back because Jamie Lee Curtis was there well. So he could have directed it. It could have been a big thing, but they kind of made it sound like it was by the creators of the first movie anyways. I remember seeing the previews for it and thinking, oh, this sounds, exciting because it's Jamie Lee Curtis is back and John Carpenter maybe and stuff.
I clearly remember this marketing, I had the same excitement, even though I didn't know the franchise. I don't even know if I had seen them. Another story of these movies is Halloween comes out in 78 and it makes a ton of money for 1978. They spend every sequel after that, and you could argue that it's the main reason that they don't stick to story plots is they keep trying to figure out a way to get the audience to come in and give them all that original Halloween money. And so they tweak and they tweak and they tweak, and it gets worse and worse. So they go back to basics with this, and budget of 17 makes 75 million. Huge profit.
I mean, and it's just the only way to do that is a reunion. But even after 10 years, it wouldn't have been a big deal, I don't think. It was something about 20 years and being in the 90s, the post-Scream era, I think is why it made good money. I think people were willing to check it out.
I was thinking about how I said that earlier, how I'm sure the trailers and I'm sure the aesthetic that they did in the marketing was really targeted at that Scream audience, but this was still felt like just more of a Halloween movie. Like they didn't make it as trendy.
Yeah, they didn't overdo the kids. Like the kids were there and they played their part, but once their story was done, they kept it with Laurie, and I think that was pretty respectful to her character instead of trying to make Josh Hartnett and the kids the heroes or something. That kind of would have probably pissed me off.
Jamie Lee Curtis is another one of those, like, this is a famous strong female character. I feel like they treated her really well in this. Sometimes when they're trying to make strong female characters, Terminator Dark Fate, what is her name?
Linda Hamilton.
Linda Hamilton is the original strong female character. And I mean, it follows her progression in Dark Fate, but
I would say Sigourney Weaver in Alien was the original.
Sigourney Weaver in Alien, that's yes.
But somebody else could probably come up with another female from the early 70s that I'm not even thinking of.
They can be a little just gruff. If you want to make a strong female character, it almost treat it in movies like they have to take away their sexuality.
Yeah, they have to be more mannish.
Yeah.
Where I agree with you that Jamie Lee Curtis is still allowed to be an attractive woman.
Yes.
And
she's actually in peak Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, 90s was when, I mean, I think we all remember True Lies.
Oh my God, the True Lies scene with her dancing. Oh yeah. Well.
Yeah. Okay, so they do this. They make this movie. It's considered a hit. Reviews are good. And then they wait 4 years to put out a sequel called Halloween Resurrections. Do you think they spent 3.5 years just workshopping how to make Michael not dead and then half a year writing and filming it? Because that's what it seems like to me.
From what I read, they already knew what they were going to do as far as keeping Michael Myers alive, because Mustafa, the producer, had it in his contract, basically, writers couldn't kill Michael Myers. But Jamie Lee Curtis was like, I want people to believe that H2O is the end. When this movie comes out, they need to believe it's the end, even though she was aware it wasn't. So I think they already knew that he was alive and what to do about that, because the day after they shot the scene with her in the ambulance, her beheading Michael. The next day, they came back and shot what we see at the beginning of Resurrections. So they needed the same set and the same people. Now, they probably didn't do anything with that footage until they figured out a script and how to include it into Resurrections. So, but maybe the time between H2O and Resurrection is working out contracts and trying to get people to come back who they were not able to get anybody back except Jamie Lee Curtis.
When I talk about this movie, I think about The Last Jedi and the things I'm about to say about this movie.
Okay, but I want this to be the last time we ever refer to Star Wars, things reminding us of the new Star Wars movies, because I think we probably bring up Star Wars in every single podcast we do.
That's a good thing.
It
Am
is.
I not right?
It
Tweeted
is,
Aaron
but
Russman
after-
nothing but Star Wars info and memes for the rest of time.
I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I'm sure I bring it up as well, but more so you.
So this movie decides to start the 8th installment of a classic franchise. One installment before, they brought back the main character to much fanfare. They bring back Laurie Strode. She triumphantly kills Michael Myers. So what this movie does at the beginning is it says, maybe she didn't?
Not a maybe. She actually did not kill Michael Myers.
So Michael Myers, at the end of the last movie, Halloween H2O, swapped outfits with an EMT and then crushed the larynx of the EMT. Why wouldn't he just kill the EMT? Because it's supposed to be a dead person.
And if you leave somebody alive who you want to pretend is you, even if they couldn't speak, you think they would try to remove the mask.
Nope. Look,
be like,
I'm
"Whoa,
doing stuff
he
Michael
did
Myers doesn't
something
do.
To me, I am not who you think I... Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
You'd think he would do that.
But he doesn't.
No, he actually is like, oh, I guess I got to be Michael Myers now. I'll just play this up.
In that situation, I feel like I wouldn't be as upset about killing him, and I wouldn't have gone crazy and ended up in a mental hospital like Laurie has.
Yeah, now, she is not really crazy, though. Like, she's kind of putting it on as a show for the people that work at this insane asylum. But I think that was the work of her attorney, her defense attorney is my guess, because she accidentally killed an EMT worker, but beheaded him in a ridiculous way. First, she stole the body, she stole the ambulance, drove it off a cliff, pinned him from the ambulance, and then beheaded an EMT worker. So that's what happened at the end of H2O, is what Resurrection is telling us. So the defense attorney is like, look, she obviously wasn't in her right mind. She was temporarily insane. Instead of prison time, he managed to get her into an insane asylum where she spent the last 3 years pretending to be comatose because she knows that Michael's coming for her, and she needs to bide her time until she can escape and try to kill him once more.
Yeah, didn't she have like a trap set up?
On the roof of the insane asylum.
Yeah, so Michael, 3 or 4 years later, comes to try and kill her again, and she's ready. He kills a couple people, gets to Laurie. She sets off a trap on the roof of some sort, doing a lot of hand motions.
Yeah, it's kind of like something people set in the woods when they want to like trap a small game, like by the foot, like grab a rabbit and lift them up in a tree or something. That's what she does to Michael.
Is that what it was? I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like a line around his leg, and it tripped him and lifted him in the air.
And
don't ask too many questions.
She doesn't
that whole thing.
want to kill the wrong guy again.
Exactly.
So she's walking up to him to take the mask off because she's gonna recognize the burnt up face of the adult brother that she never
seen
knew
before. Yeah, I don't know.
But what happens, Aaron?
Well, he grabs her because she gets too close, and then both of them are hanging off the roof, and he stabs her in the back and lets her fall, and Laurie Strode is officially dead.
In the first 5 minutes of
No,
this
it's
Halloween.
more like 10, 15.
10,
I don't know,
I'm sorry.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Here's my thing, though, is that for me, that was like the best part of the movie, I thought. I'm not saying they should have done any of that, but the way that whole thing worked, I mean, it worked for me. I was like, all right, well, this isn't bad. Because when I watched the trailer for Resurrection, which was right after I finished H2O, I was curious, well, I wonder how Resurrection's going to go. I watched the trailer. The trailer made it look like garbage.
Really?
I mean, it made it look like Laurie comes to help the kids in the house. Like, that's what they set it up as. I mean, it was a total bait and switch. So to find out that she was actually just in this nice cameo thing at the beginning and her character ends, it wasn't too bad, I guess. It worked for me. So anyways, but he moves on from there, and then I think he just goes home, right? It's just like, I need to go back to Haddonfield. I've killed Laurie.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that he was still in California. That's where the hospital was, because that's where she lived. So yeah, he makes another road trip across the country to go home. And this is the first time where we actually see evidence that part 4, 5, and 6 did not exist.
Yes.
Because when we get back to Haddonfield, we have a reality TV company run by Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks.
Busta Rhymes, Bargain Bin, LL Cool J.
Bargain Bin, LL Cool J.
No offense to Busta. He's good, but he just he delivers his lines like he's not really an actor. He just talks funny, so it makes you think he can act. But it sounds very improv, just him just whipping out things. And
he's a Tracy Morgan.
There you go. He's a Tracy Morgan, and I like Tracy Morgan too. But yeah.
I actually was going to say that I like Busta Rhymes more.
I do like Busta Rhymes.
Yeah. But yeah, there are some actors, and we could put them on your scale at some point. But yeah, some actors are incredibly one note, and they're good at one thing, and that's just what it is.
Yeah. Well, what is this, like 2002? I mean, Tyra Banks is in it, Busta Rhymes. It's about a reality show program going to Michael Myers' old house. It's called Dangertainment.
It couldn't be any more topical and on point.
So horrible, though. Just awful in every way. I would never want to make a movie like this because it's so dated. However, I give him props for kind of being ahead of time because they were streaming it to the internet, right? I mean, in 2002, people weren't watching streamed video very often. No. So I thought that was pretty impressive that they were at the forefront of that idea that you would be streaming something and everybody would gather around the computer screen and watch it. So that was one thing. And two, also in 2002, using actual video in film wasn't that popular, but I thought the director, Rick Rosenthal, actually combined the video that came from the point of view cameras that all the characters wore. Yeah, just throwing that in every once in a while with the film kind of worked pretty good, and it was a little bit of a cutting edge kind of thing. I didn't see any other movies do that at that time.
Rick Rosenthal, director of this, also directed Halloween 2.
How did he get this job? Probably just because they were like, "Oh, you did too." Because I mean, he doesn't really have the credits.
He doesn't have the credits, and I honestly think that it was that situation.
Yeah, I think they just thought that was cute.
Yeah,
hey, let's bring back that guy. But maybe Jamie Lee Curtis liked working with him for her little portion of the movie. Maybe that was fun for her, too, is that she could reunite with the director of Halloween 2. I don't know.
He does such a great job in Halloween 2 from 1981 of capturing the feel of what Carpenter did while adding some new elements. And with this, I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, this is like everything's bargain bin Scream. Like every character that was cast are like a ripoff of a better actor from the Scream franchise. Even from Halloween H2O, everybody's a pale comparison of who was in the previous Halloween movie, I felt. What was one of the guys from American Pie? Was that him?
Yes, there was a guy from American Pie. There was Katie Sackhoff is in this, which is great.
Who's that?
She's Bo-Katan in The Mandalorian, and she was on Battlestar Galactica. She's good all around.
There we go. Star Wars yet again.
Anywho, guess what happens? Michael shows up at the house. Actually, no.
So what's the idea is that they're doing it. It's kind of like a pilot episode is what it felt like, right? It was a pilot episode almost, but they had the equipment and they were already streaming. So it's like Busta and Tyra are a couple and they have this Dangertainment show. And they talk about it like we're going to be rich someday once this show gets picked up. But at the same time, they're also already making the show and it's streaming. So I wasn't really clear where the hell they were with this.
I think it's their big break to be able to spend the night in the Michael Myers house. I'm sure they had to talk to City Hall, get permits.
Right.
They have it set up where they're not only having these kids spend the night in the house, but they're also fucking with them.
And the kids' idea is that they're supposed to find clues to explain why Michael became the serial killer he did.
Yes.
So like Busta dresses up as Michael Myers. to try to fuck with them and stuff. Yeah.
And so in between that, Michael is actually showing up at the house and he's starting to kill these kids.
For reals.
And nobody really knows what's going on. I mean, he kills all but, what, 1, 2?
So the kids all wear small cameras on their heads. And
Yes.
that's how the video is shot for the show. And although nobody's editing, like, no... I mean, I guess Tyra Banks is the director, kind of technical directing it from the van or whatever all the monitors are, but she's not really doing a lot of switching for different camera. It just kind of happens naturally somehow, is that these kids at a party are watching it. And so we just get to see their reactions. And one of the kids who's watching the live stream is a online friend of the lead girl.
Yes.
And she has her little Apple Newton or whatever the fuck that was, where she can write things in it. Kind of an early texting. So
Yes.
that's another thing I'll give them. A little ahead of their time, you know? They're like texting. And she and the kid's like, you know, oh, he's right behind you. That was kind of text or whatever. And he tries to help her out.
Yeah, because he has realized that Michael's actually there.
And nobody believes him, but he's just like, no, this is not fake. This is real. Yeah.
And
I mean,
that's
what's more
why
to say about it?
there's nothing more to say, and that's why I hated it so much.
Yeah, it's awful.
These movies get tedious because they don't have... There's never a twist with a Halloween movie. There's always just, Michael's here to kill some people. I'm gonna kill some people. And then, we might have stopped Michael. Maybe, probably not. You'd never really learn anything new over the course of the movie. Like, there's no character development. If you don't play with the other characters very well, and if you don't give them a solid arc, then you get something that's like this, where it's just a little stale.
Yeah, so Busta Rhymes is still alive. What happens to Tyra Banks? Did she get killed?
I want to
even
say
remember.
she was killed, and I applauded, but I can't remember.
But Busta Rhymes saves the final girl, Bianca, I think. And then the police finally arrive and the ambulance. And so they cart out Michael. And I think that's it, right? Like, they are like, we survived the night. And then Busta Rhymes has this ridiculous speech about how, like, you know, people's suffering is not entertainment, even though this is all you're doing. I was like, this is your fault that everybody's dead. I just want you to understand that. There's going to be civil suits like you won't believe from the parents of everybody that is now murdered because you put on a live stream TV show where a real serial killer ended up killing everybody.
He is out of business. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. So, but then they take Michael back to the morgue, and the woman's working on Michael. He's dead, and then all of a sudden, boom, his eyes open up. He's not dead. Cut to black. And whatever budget rate new grunge metal song they have is playing.
Budget of 15 million. It only makes 37 million at the box office. Just a big failure, and it was enough to really seal a nail in this franchise for 5 years.
Yep.
They shelved the idea of a sequel and instead opted to go with another current trend at the time, was rebooting all these old horror franchises at this point.
Yeah, although I would call this a remake. I think the zombie films would be remake. Like straight
Remakes.
up. Like,
yes.
Yeah, just remake. But it was a good idea, right? Because those things made money.
Yeah, like they had a solid... I mean, they all had the same tone. They were all darker.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the Friday the 13th. I remember the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one they did.
But I remember the Halloween more because it wasn't like they just were like, here's the movie that we're going to remake. It was like, Rob Zombie, you have a brand. What are you going to do with this? So it was like his thing. And I think that was the right way to go. They gave it to somebody who was an all-around storyteller, and he took control of it. Like, that's what you got to do in order to make a success.
I don't know who the guy was that did the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, but I feel like they were trying that with him.
I don't know, though, but Zombie had such a following, and like that was his baby, was like
he still
horror
does.
movies. Yeah, totally. So it just made perfect sense. Probably everybody else who was still making the Friday the 13th movies and wanted to make another Nightmare on Elm Street was like, shit, we should have got Zombie to do that, you know? Like, that's probably what they were probably kicking themselves. But I think he had a love for Michael Myers, like a lot of people did, so... Who knows if he would have said yes to rebooting Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street.
The Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, the guy that made it, he was a very famous music videographer. And, like, he did Smells Like Teen Spirit. He did Mama, I'm Coming Home.
Yeah. No, I know that guy. I can't remember his name.
Like, he's just got he only ever made that one movie, but he has so many.
That's weird.
Video credits and commercial credits. Boom. Halloween franchise killed off in the same way that Jamie Lee Curtis is killed off in this fucking piece of shit.
Points for trying.
Points for trying. And
I noticed a big mistake in the movie, too.
Ooh, what
was
was
so apparent to me. Okay, so all the kids are at that party, right? And they're watching the live stream.
Yeah.
Okay? And there's one scene early on when like they have a bigger group watching the live stream where the blonde girl is in the house and she does this huge scream and really tries to scare the lead girl. And everybody, they show the party watching it, reacting to how loud it is. And the room is pretty full. And there's specifically a kid that like your eyes go right to him because he's wearing this bad like Hugh Hefner smoking jacket. And he's like blonde, and they all go, ah, like they cover their ears because the scream is so loud. Okay. So it just like, I just noticed that kid. And then like one scene later, they go back to that room. There's not as many people in there. That smoking jacket kid walks in and goes, hey, is this that Michael Myers live stream? Can I watch? And then he sits down. And I was like, you were already in the room. I don't know. It was just a total mistake. And I don't know why they left that in, you know?
Like, I like the thought that he was at this party and everybody was really drunk, so he was like gaslighting them.
Yes.
Like, hey, is this that thing? Can I sit down?
He left to go to the bathroom and then came back in. Yes.
Hey, is that thing? Can I sit down? Yeah.
And then everybody's just like, whoa, deja vu.
That's great. Oh.
Was there a TV show or a cartoon Halloween at all that we're missing? What else can we cover? What if there's a Saturday morning cartoon called Halloween and it had an animated Michael Myers causing a lot of trouble for the neighbors? Could you imagine? They made a Beetlejuice cartoon, for God's sakes.
I mean, that made sense, though.
It did, but we tried watching Beetlejuice with my kids, and they got freaked out from that scene when they just bought the house, and they go in, and they open the closet, and Gina Davis is hung by the neck and tears her face off, and her eyes bulge out. She screams. My kids were like, ah! And I'm like, okay. I forgot about that part. I mean, it's a comedy, but there is some freaky parts. I mean, come on.
Charlie is completely desensitized.
Well, she's also like 8 years old, right?
7.
9? She's 7? Okay.
Yeah. We did have the conversation, right, where maybe we never did. Her favorite horror franchise is Child's Play. And when the sequel was coming out, I think she was only 5. And I went to take her to the theater to see it.
The remake?
Yep. And that wasn't that good, but...
That was garbage.
Yeah.
I really didn't like it.
They looked at her and they were like, how old is she? And I was like, she's 5, whatever. And they're like, you have to be at least 6 to go to a R-rated movie, sir. And they took away my Parent of the Year award. I was carrying that as we were going into the theater, and they were like, we need your award, sir.
So she didn't get to go to it?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
When did you see it?
I mean, we obviously rented it as soon as it came to video.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. How embarrassing for you.
It was awesome.
To get stopped right at the door.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Stay tuned next week as we close out our first massive franchise by talking about Halloween and Halloween Kills, which, when they make a sequel, it have the same name as the original. That drives me crazy a little bit. I just want to say.
Yeah, I agree.
And they keep calling these new movies a trilogy when there's a part 1 in 1978, so they're really a quadrilogy, or whatever you call 4 movies.
True.
Check us out next episode. We're finishing Halloween, and then we're going to have a special new feature. Should we call it So Good It's Bad? Where we specifically go out to watch a sequel that's considered not good, and we'll just use something simple like Rotten Tomato scores.
I thought we do that all the time. We do that all the time.
Not on purpose.
Yeah, I kind of pick them on purpose sometimes.
Well, this is us intentionally going out and saying, this movie's supposed to be dog shit. We're going to watch it and see.
I mean, isn't that kind of the whole basis of the Halloween franchise, is that we knew the sequels generally weren't that great, and that's why we undertook it?
The funny thing is like, this feels like such a me pick, but this was a you pick. What made you pick this franchise?
Because I was reading the John Carpenter book. So I was more knowledgeable about John Carpenter's Halloween, and I figured, well, now's the time.
I'm so happy that you did, because I've learned so much.
I would say the first one's good. The second one was entertaining. The third one was pretty fun. The fourth one was pretty good. The fifth one was absolute garbage.
Absolute garbage.
The sixth one was a real miss. However, there's certain things to like. H20 was pretty good. And then Resurrection was absolute garbage. So I think 4 and Resurrection are the 2 worst sequels of the Halloween franchise.
So if I put them in order, we're doing rankings.
My God,
That's
what
fun.
would we do? Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm doing part 1, part 2, and then I'm doing part 7, part 4, part 3, part 6, 8, and 5.
Yeah, I'd give you that. I would be exactly the same. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I might take H20 over the second one.
See,
but
and I knew
don't
you
know.
weren't as much of a fan as part 2 as I was.
But I think part 2, just because of... I would probably choose that just because it's around the same time the original came out. It's hard to hate that came from like that same era. That's still pretty decent. I guess that's better than watching one 20 years later. So I guess I would have the exact same list.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Follow us on social media and check us out on YouTube, because we have a YouTube, and for some reason people listen to podcasts on there.
Do we have a TikTok?
We don't have a TikTok because I'm too old. It's the same way I don't have a Snapchat.
They won't even let you get a login. No,
Yeah, the age verification,
yeah,
it does the opposite. It says
you have to be 10
old.
or under in order to have a TikTok.
That's all.
Okay.
I'm
Cool.
Justin.
I'm Aaron.
And until next
Oh,
time.
and Mickey Dolans, if you're listening, I mean, I like you, even though your handshake was not good. I don't want you to get the wrong idea.
One last final thought. If you could have any celebrity on as a guest host, who would you want to be on the podcast?
Nick Cage.
Nicolas Cage would be crazy. And I'm so excited for that.
I think he would have been down with watching the Halloween franchise with us, I believe. And he would have had some nice insights.
I would want, I don't know why, Patton Oswalt. I love that little guy.
Yeah, he's okay. He's a little overexposed for me. He just does everything, and he's
right
everywhere.
now.
But you know, you got to get it while you can. I think, because sometimes you get washed up, and so you got to make as much money and do as much as you can when you're hot.
He's hot right now. And
I think that's him.
Yeah, I'm digging it. Anyway, Patton, if you're listening, we'd like you on. You can pick the movie. It'd be great.
Well, he's not gonna like me now. If you, like I just said, I don't like him.
I essentially called him a gnome. Like, he's just an adorable
little guy.
Yeah.
He probably shows up. He's taller than you.
That'd be sweet. Like, if the cameras just were confused and he's just a giant.
God. Let's have James Woods on.
He would actually probably be amazing. This we haven't had this conversation in a long time. It's liking somebody's art while being able to separate that you don't like them as a person. That's a classic James Wood.
Yep.
I like him in most of his movies.
John Voight, probably.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's don't meet your heroes. There's a reason they say it over and over and over. And it's because in real life, people have flaws just like us. Mm-hmm. And some people aren't educated and have crazy opinions.
Yes, that's true too.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks.